Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of day it is. Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Dr. Don. For your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals and about whatever it is that they have decided to talk about. And I persuaded my old friend Paul Spindell, who's my guest tonight, to come on again and talk about free hugging and a whole bunch of other stuff. And he's just so full of stuff that's interesting to talk about. And most of all, about whatever we talk about when I'm with you, it leaves me feeling good, happy, and I'm never on a downer whenever I'm with you, whether it's over lunch out there or doing a TV show together. But good to have you on again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling pretty good today.
Pretty good today.
Yeah.
And you're not nervous right now?
Always a little nervous. A little nervous is good.
I'm more nervous than you.
That could be.
See what I mean? You're so fun to be with, yeah. But we did, the title of the show is Free Hugging on August 8th, 2013, because this free hugging phenomenon has been a delight for me to consider off and on since I first met you and discovered free hugging and what that's about. And we could talk about it probably for a long, long time, and your adventures doing it all over the country and in many different places. But we'll get into that later on as we get further into the show.
Okay.
It's one of the few things that I think about that seems limitless in its potential as we talk about it. But let's go on and see what we talk about. As you know, the show goes in two parts. The first part is the bio part, and they've heard about you, but let's do it again because it's been a while.
Okay. And
then we'll go into the second part where we'll talk about free hugging, what's it all about, and creating the life you want, and environmental actions. And I'm sure there'll be something else that'll come up.
We just never know, do we?
Okay, shall we start again? Now, if I were to ask your best friend, Paul, who is Paul? What would your best friend say? He or she would say, Paul is what? And be her or him. Paul is?
Wow. I know what I'd like them to say. Whether they'd actually say that or not. I think they would talk about an authenticity.
Will you be that person now and talk in the first person as though you're that person?
Paul is authentic in the way he deals with life.
Yes.
You get what you see what you get. He's not going to sugarcoat things. He's not going to hide things. He kind of tells it based on what he's feeling, and but he has a positive view of life that is contagious, and I like being around him for that reason.
Yeah, that's enough. We can stop the show now. That's all we need.
That's it. That's kind of it.
I agree with your friend, your best friend.
Thank you.
Yeah. And when and where were you born?
I was born on April Fool's.
That's how you got to be so funny.
I'm thinking there might be a correlation there. I don't know. April Fool's, I actually came out a couple months early to get that day. And I was born in Binghamton, New York.
Uh-huh.
And you want to know how old I am too? Is that part of that birth date thing?
Yeah, sure.
I was born in 1957.
I can't count that high.
I'm trying to think about how old I am. So people can do the math if they want to.
Okay, yeah. Why were you born?
I think you asked me that.
I know. You have to give me the same answer.
I don't remember what my answer was then, so I can make it up again,
either.
Right?
Yes, of course.
Gosh, I think we're all here to do something. And part of the journey of life is for us to try and figure out what that is.
Yeah. Have you figured out what you're here for?
I do have a mission in life that I've had for a number of years, 6 words that I believe we've talked about previously, but it's to touch hearts.
To touch hearts.
Challenge minds.
Challenge minds.
And incite laughter.
Incite laughter. I remember that.
And if I do those 3 things, I'm feeling pretty good about life. And in fact, the topics that we may talk about tonight, I think, will relate to me doing that. you know, even the free hugging.
So that's why you were born?
Yeah, to touch hearts, challenge minds, and incite laughter. And if I keep working on doing that, I think things are pretty good.
This is going to go too smooth tonight. We can't have a kumbaya for the next hour. We're going to have something to fight about.
Oh yeah, we could fight about things, because that's part of challenging minds too, right? Is to have different opinions about things, and that just makes the world go round.
Yeah. Is there anything of significance about your national cultural heritage that's worth reporting to the viewers? Or are you just plain old American white bread?
No, I don't know. You know, I don't know that my heritage is a strong determiner of how I am today. I've not done a lot of things in my growing up in relation to my heritage, for good or bad. That's just the way that's been.
So there's nothing in that would be of significance to the viewers to know about your cultural heritage. Do you think they will hear you?
You know, I'm Jewish. My family came from Russia and Poland to the U.S. So, you know, certainly all of what's gone on, you know, over the years in relation to Jews, you know, is certainly something that stays in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I was never bar mitzvahed in the, you know, in the formal way, and so I've never practiced really a religion around that. But
are you a-religious?
I don't know what that.
You don't got no religion.
Now, I like to think of myself as spiritual.
What is spiritual?
I knew I shouldn't have said that.
You can switch off.
We did this last time. I think we went down this road. You know, I don't practice any formal religion, but I do believe that there's some energy in the universe that you know, helps things happen that can't be explained any way else.
Yeah.
You just go, wow. You know, and that brings me to some spirituality. I think that recognizing really how small we are individually in the scheme of the universe. So I think that's where my spirituality comes from.
And you know, if I ask you a question that you don't want to answer, you can always tell me get lost or whatever.
Oh, can I?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
You know that. Spiritual. I've asked that people from time to time will say that as I talk to them about spiritual, about their religion, and they say, no, I'm spiritual. And I ask, what do you mean by spiritual or spirituality? And it's interesting the kinds of responses I get. And I've arrived at my own idea of what spiritual means for me. If I say, well, I'm not sure what I am, but I'm a skeptic right now. I have no religion. I'm a recovering Roman Catholic, as you know, having been an altar boy for years. And I say, well, I guess you can say that I too am spiritual. And spiritual means there's something that happens in my total being. It isn't a feeling, it's beyond a feeling. It's where I feel in the moment and experiencing my being at this particular moment. And the brain and the thinking is all quiet. And it's wonderful. Doesn't happen very often. Eric Byrne, talking about transactional analysis and the intimacy and different ways of structuring time to be in games with people or passing time or all those kinds of ways of structuring time. And then intimacy is the ultimate way of structuring time with another human being, where you have an abundance of positive strokes and validation of your humanity and your decency and all that kind of stuff. Eric Byrne said, here's my point, if you have 8 minutes of pure intimacy in a lifetime, you've had a successful life. Well, I characterize spirituality that way, whether I'm alone or with somebody else. If I'm having one of those micro moments where I'm in touch with what I just described again, don't ask me to repeat it again, then that stacks up in my collection of times in my life when I was experiencing spirituality. Another way of looking at it is, if I look at a mom and a baby in the supermarket, and they're looking at each other in a special way, a unique way, and there's something that goes on there, and I feel it. That's spiritual.
And how close are you to your 8 minutes?
Just talking about it, I've added another 30 seconds. So I asked you the question, and I answered it.
Yeah, it's okay. I answered it too. I would think that if Eric Burns is right with 8 minutes, then I'm doing really well.
Yeah. How many minutes do you have so far in
Gosh,
total?
I don't know.
It's a continuum, you know, total intimacy versus total alienation.
Right, but I would think that part of spirituality is not counting the seconds.
Of course.
In those moments.
Yeah.
That kind of self-defeating of the spirituality.
Yeah.
Right? But if I would, you know, if I'm truly being in that moment. So I think I'm doing pretty good, though, just as a hunch.
Okay. We could pursue this some more. I can always pursue something to the ends of the earth with you. So I'll stop.
Unless I say I don't want to answer that.
Okay. So your formal education, you've been to school, haven't you?
Yes.
Another way you don't have to answer is saying yes and don't give anything more to go.
Yes, I have been to formal education. Let's see. Master's degree in organizational behavior. Used to call it, I think they used to call it industrial psychology. So organizational behavior from the University of Maryland many years ago. Maryland. Bachelor's degree in communications from a small school. Well, I guess it's gotten bigger, but James Madison University in Virginia. So East Coast, formally educated. And then the rest of the education has come with life.
Yeah. Why did you choose that direction in your education?
You know, there were kind of little things, you know, at least for me, I wasn't driven to pursue a certain path, and therefore to achieve that path I have to take this degree, you know, attain this degree or whatever. It was really, I kept thinking that, you know, if I go back to college, it'll teach me exactly what I want to do, right? And then I found that each time I went to college, it kind of went like that instead.
That's you.
And it gave me all sorts of different opportunities, right? So I think originally I started at University of Maryland to study political communications. Yeah, it was interesting, but I realized I really didn't want to be involved in the political world of Washington D.C. and all that. If we look at the description, you know, that my best friend would say about authentic, I'm not sure much of Washington D.C. is authentic. So that would have been a struggle for me. I wouldn't have lasted long.
Don't say those kinds of things. Homeland Security is watching this show.
And they've gotten our emails and, you know, whatever is going on there. So, so I made a switch at University of Maryland to organizational behavior, trying to really help us figure out why we behave the way we do. You know. So.
Have you figured it out?
We are. You know, human beings can be pretty predictable if we pay attention. You know, if we watch and listen to people, you know, there is some predictability to human behavior, and so.
You're incredible. Your comments can take us on forever and ever in a particular direction, you know.
Absolutely. We might never get to free hugging or anything else. We'll just talk about all sorts of stuff, right?
Mr. Director, can we get the countdown clock working here? I'm used to having it. It isn't working now. It says 0.609 or something now. Will you hook that up for me, please? There, I feel better now. Thank you very much. Okay. Do you have a partner, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife, or something?
I think if you have a wife, you should not have a boyfriend or girlfriend. That's really going to put you in trouble.
That's not the question. No.
Yes, I have a wife. I'm very happily married. I actually got married recently, last December, on the last day of the Earth, according to the Mayan calendar, on December 21st. So we got married. We'd been together dating for 12 years or so. So it was about time that we got married, and we just thought, you know, that day seemed like an appropriate. It was solstice. It was spiritual. I got married on Molokai, an island in Hawaii, which that whole day, the whole experience was very spiritual. To be standing out on a beach in Molokai, getting married. So her name is Tonya. She's a sweetheart. You're going to see some pictures, hopefully, later that she's taken. She's a photographer with great skill, and I just love being with her. She makes me smile. So It's a good thing.
Will you tell her directly in that camera how you feel about her?
I think she knows, but I love you, Tonya. I enjoy every moment when I get to come home to you. Thank you for being in my life.
I like that. I like that. Thank you. What do you do now to pay the rent, put a roof over your head, or buy your beans? What kind of work do you do?
I work for myself. I do all sorts of management training, team building, leadership development, supervisory training for organizations, somewhat using my master's degree, go figure. And so I do that independently, and then I also do it through some organizations. I teach at Portland State.
Portland State University here
Correct.
in Portland.
Portland State University in their Center for Executive and Professional Education. I work with an organization, United Employers Association here in Portland. It's an organization of small to mid-size companies where I go in and do training for them as well. And so each month is kind of a puzzle trying to put together, you know, where all the beans are coming from this month. But I've been doing that for about 13 years, and it seems to keep working. So,
before you do a training for a company, can you say a few words about what you're doing at training? What you're about? It's so general what you said.
Yeah, you know, a lot of times what I do is a supervision series for an organization or a public forum where a number of companies would send people in, where I work with supervisors to help them figure out how to lead a group of people in a more productive way than potentially they have before. And really talking about how you can relate to another human being in a productive way. I mean, oftentimes companies, you know, I came out of food service, and I used to use the expression, you take the fastest lettuce cutter and you make them supervisor of the lettuce cutters. And it's not a good model, because we now lose our fastest lettuce cutter, and we have a supervisor who doesn't know anything about supervising other people. And we have a lot of that in industry. And how do we take those people who are well-intentioned people and help them learn how to talk to another human being in a productive way that's going to get the work done and have those employees want to work with you? So I spend a lot of time doing that.
So that's kind of important in teaching people how to manage other people.
Yeah, I think it's pretty important, and good news, bad news, there's a lot of need for that. So I do a lot of that. I work with organizations and the people in them to try and help that process.
And would you care to make any comment about your political persuasion, left, right, center? And some people don't care to make comments about that. On a continuum, you're left,
you know,
right,
I guess the way I've described myself for a long time, and I don't think they're mutually exclusive, is that I'm a social liberal and a fiscal conservative. I think there are ways to, you know, we don't have to, in order to deal with the social side of life, we don't have to just spend, you know, money all over the place. We can actually be prudent in how we spend the money. But I think also that, you know, politically, I would say that, yes, I'm on the left side socially. And
would you see yourself more of a socialist or a capitalist? And there's a third or fourth choice, but I thought I'd try those two on you.
I'm not sure I would go along with either of those. You know, certainly, I do believe, I mean, I understand how it got to be where it is, but I have a frustration around the current economic model we live under in terms of gross domestic product, and it's all about profitability, and we have to grow, and we have to have, you know, increased stock market, and everything's about that. I think that's causing a lot of pain to people and to the earth, and I don't think it's a sustainable model. So that causes me great concern around the capitalistic model, if you will. So.
Why don't we adopt a model that is in existence now in Tibet? Is it instead of the
gross domestic happiness?
Yeah, gross
in
domestic
Bhutan. That's in Bhutan.
Bhutan, yeah.
And our governor here in Oregon even went and studied that. Went to Bhutan to study gross domestic happiness, which I don't believe any other governor from the U.S. has gone to do that. And you know, it would take a long time to transition to something like that. But wouldn't that be an interesting way to start thinking about life rather than gross domestic product? Yeah. I mean, if we look at gross domestic product, we tend to focus then on using the earth as a resource. that's not sustainable with the number of people we have on this earth and everything that's going on. If we continue to look at gross domestic product, we will use this earth as a resource, and we will exploit the earth to a point that we're in trouble.
Just the
in
idea,
my opinion.
Of course, the idea of using the earth,
Right.
that phrase does something to me.
Yes.
Using the earth. The words we choose often illustrates what's going on underneath in our minds, in our deepest recesses of our minds, using the earth. I'm thinking about Greenpeace and those few organizations around that see us in partnership with earth as a living thing.
Right.
And instead of using the earth, living with the earth, being a part of it.
Wouldn't that be an interesting switch for people to say, I live with the earth, not on the earth?
Yeah.
That would change our behavior.
Yeah. You're changing mine as I visit with you again. It's a pleasure to be with you again.
Thank you, and you as well.
Let me continue here.
Sure.
Memberships in political, social, or civic organizations. Do you have any memberships that are worth mentioning to the viewers?
Sure. I think one particularly is, a local organization called the Earth Wisdom Alliance. It's a group that I've been a part of now for a few years.
Earth Wisdom Alliance.
Yes. And we conduct workshops around environmental justice, environmental sustainability, social justice, and spiritual fulfillment, the three things that we talk about. And we do workshops called Awakening the Dreamer, Changing the Dream. And it's a group I've been a part of for a few years. It's based on a workshop that came from an organization called the Pachamama Alliance, which is a worldwide organization. And we're kind of the local group that does that here. And
the Pachamama Alliance.
Pachamama means Mother Earth.
Will you spell that again so people can go to it
yes, it's
on the website?
Pachamama.
I remember I've done that once or twice before.
Pachamama.
Yeah, we need more of those.
And it's all about, that workshop is thinking about the dream culture, if you will, what we dream we become. And so how do we look at the awakening the dreamer in us, and yet looking at the dreams we have? Is it about consumerism and consumption and buying bigger and buying more and always having to have the newest thing? Or is there a different dream we could look at that might change how we be?
Yeah. Persons from the past are alive today that you particularly like or liked or admired. Any names come to mind besides me?
Yeah, you'd be right there at the top of the list. There's I'm sure there's some thought leaders that I would love to have dinner with if they were still around. Gandhi would come to mind. That said, that would be fun to sit with Gandhi and talk about life. I'd love to sit and have a meal with the Dalai Lama and talk about life and what that looks like. I'd also, I saw a scene many years ago now of three people sitting in a box seat at Yankee Stadium, and it was Robin Williams, Billy Crystal, and Whoopi Goldberg. And I said, I'd do anything to be in that box with them, just talking about that, because I think that conversation would have been pretty amazing as well. So, yeah.
Do you think there was a Jesus on this earth at one time?
I don't know enough to answer that question.
I don't know either. I think there probably was. It's a matter of whether someone has taken this human being and mythically created this icon for a group of other human beings who need this kind of a thing.
I could potentially go along with that. I don't think I have enough data on that one to know.
I don't have enough data on so many things, but I have an opinion.
I know. I had somebody tell me the other day, he said, the best way to avoid conflict is to only speak about what you have data around.
Data.
And I was like, oh man, then I'd have to be quiet most of the time.
Is the countdown clock working? It doesn't look like it. I think it's stuck on 44:01. Are you sure now it's 33:25? It seems more like it. And it's yours, nurse, your fault. Okay, now let's keep going if I can get back to where we were. I was going to ask you, okay, can you make me smile?
No. I can say and do some things. You can choose to smile. I can't take control over your smile.
You've been pretty good so far. You have a quiet way of challenging me, and I expect it, but you do it when I least expect it, which is amusing.
Thanks. But smiling is good. Laughter is good as well.
Yeah.
Good for the soul.
Uh-huh. So you believe in the soul?
I think the soul's a pretty powerful place.
You talk to your soul?
I think probably more than, and the soul to me, there's a lot of conversation that goes back and forth, man, about, you know, how I'm living every day and am I being truthful to who I want to be. And there's a lot of that communication. We don't do texts, though. I think there's just a direct communication link that's working.
You don't have any data?
I don't have, there's no electronic communications with my soul. No.
Okay, we're going to take a break now. All right, thank you, sir. We'll be back in a few minutes. We're going to take a break for catch our breath and find what else we're going to talk about. We're going to move over into the main part of the program in a minute. Going to put up my thoughts for the day. That should be in the CG there. Dr. Don's thought for the day. Here comes one. Okay, we are back. Thanks for staying tuned, and I know why you stayed tuned, because of this guest of mine, Paul Spindell, is so decidedly and deucedly interesting, and even though we're talking about a few things we've talked about in previous shows, there's still a different response I get from Paul, and I'm having fun.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, for your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don that you're watching is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like Paul here about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals, and about whatever it is that we have decided to talk about. Now, we've got a cheat sheet here, and I mentioned earlier on what we'll be talking about. Hopefully, if we can stop chattering, we're going to talk about free hugging and creating the life you want and environmental actions. And in this half of the show, you get to lead off. What are we going to start talking about first, Paul? Free hugging?
Let's do the free hugging first.
Oh, sure.
That's the happiest. You know, I mean, that's a real happy one. You said you wanted to leave happy, so maybe, I don't know, we could do that. Well, let's do that one now.
Yeah, and you will call for the pictures when you want them up. When do you want to show those pictures during our conversation? You're going to say show what and show one or show this one? We didn't identify them.
No, I didn't identify. We'll just show them all, and I'll talk about them maybe a little, and potentially I'll glance to see if I can see them or something. It'll all be fine.
All right.
We'll wing it.
So you start talking first, and then we'll put some pictures up. Talk about. Now I got a few questions about.
You do have a few questions.
I forgot about. Where are
they? There they are, right there.
No. What is a hugger? What is a hugger?
What is a free hugger?
A hugger.
I don't know necessarily what a person who shares an intimate moment with another person.
Uh-huh.
Not sexual or anything. I mean, just a hug.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
So then what's a free hugger? Aren't all hugs free?
Well, no, actually. In fact, one of the more powerful situations I had in doing free hugging was a lady who wanted to know what the expectations were of the hug.
Uh-huh.
And I explained it was free. There was no expectation except a good hug.
No expectation except a good hug.
It's just a free hug to, because like the 8 minutes that Eric Burns was talking about, a lot of people talk about the number of hugs in a day to help keep you going, and I think everybody could use some hugs. So.
So there's huggers with conditions, and then free hugs. Okay, kind of makes sense. Yeah. What made you a free hugger?
It's been a few years now. Somebody sent me a YouTube video of a gentleman doing free hugging, and I was captivated by that. I loved the idea of it. To me, it's, sometimes I get involved with activism where I'm protesting against something.
Yes.
Right? And we could talk about all that. But to me, the free hugging is a positive thing I can go do that's hugely energetic to the people involved and is just really positive. So anyway, I saw the video. And so then, you start with a sign, and you make yourself a sign, and you go hug somewhere and see how that works. And the first time I did it, I was, pretty darn nervous about it all. And it's taken on a life of its own since.
Can I tell you an example of what you started with me?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a clinical psychologist, and I've studied the human potential movement, the radical 60s, and even Burlington nudist camp and all that kind of stuff. But now and then there's something I hear that's totally new for me. And this free hug thing, and just recently in my life. But an example of what you taught me, I was in a Safeway supermarket one evening, and I was in the produce section, and I had the sign, free hugs, just ask. I changed your sign a little bit. And there were two older women by the produce, and I was on one side of the display. And this one woman over here was looking at me kind of curious, so I thought I'd make the first move. I said, "You see my sign?" She says, "Yes." And she's still kind of suspicious. I says, "Do you want one?" She says, "I don't know." I says, "Go ahead." She says, "Okay." And she came around there, and she just melted into me. Just melted, changed totally. And when we let go, she's just smiling from ear to ear, and her face was just happy. And I says, "Thank you." And she thanked me, and she's still looking at me. And I turned, and there was this other woman who was looking at the two of us, and she didn't look like she was too receptive. And I says, "You want one?" She says, "No, no." And then the first woman became a salesman for me. She says, "You got to try it. It's really great,
Or even sometimes she'll then go hug the other woman, even if they didn't even know each other.
And you've seen that happen?
I've seen that happen. It becomes contagious.
But let me finish my story. So we're leaving to leave the store, and this first woman and I are walking next to each other, visiting and talking. And between the time we met the second woman and we got outside the store, it was a whole different world. Even through the checkout stand.
Right.
It's what you have taught me to ask for hugs. And I don't do it all the time. I want to keep it fresh when I start again. And I've got 2 or 3 variations of free hugs that I use from time to time. And I'm going to report back to you again the success of it. It's eminently successful. I recommend it highly.
Yeah, I want you to share with me your stories, because I like to know them, and I might even use them to help encourage others to take this on. So keep me up to date on your events, your adventures.
And I got to hang out with you some more, because you have an event coming up.
We're going to do that. I have. It's a worldwide. It's Global Free Hugs for Peace.
Global Free Hugs for Peace.
Yes, you can Google it. It's on Facebook. There's all sorts of ways to find it. But in Portland, if you want to hang out with us, email me, pspindel, P-S-P-I-N-D-E-L, at msn.com, and I'll give you the logistics. We're going to be meeting down near Saturday Market on September 21st in Portland, and hugging it up. I already have a good group of people coming together, and we'll just shift the energy a little bit. I think it's a very peaceful thing to do.
So Yeah, and I said the time is flying by. Somewhere
Going
along the way, we're
quick.
going to start showing some of the
Yeah, let's do that.
photos
Let's put some photos up. These photos, I can just describe them, I guess, as you see them. I mean, so look at the face that's on that photo, right? I mean, that's and the lady's face, I'm sure, was just as good. All these photos, by the way, were taken by my wife, Tonya Twigger. She takes amazing photos, and I mean, how can you not want to do something like that that has your face in that moment? And when you talk about somebody melting into the hug, that's spiritual.
Yeah.
When the two of you are just engaged in a hug, I just think that's great. How about another one? That's a little. That's a small young lady, and that's actually up in British Columbia. And I love hugging little ones, and they seem to have less reservation oftentimes about it than adults do. But it just tickles my soul when a young person comes up and wants to hug. This one here is the lady in the middle is actually the free hugger. The other two decided they wanted a group hug. And one of the things, again, look at their faces. And it was the first time for this person doing free hugging. And she's actually she's absolutely captivated by it. And she keeps calling me about when is the next one and when is the next one and I want to go and all that kind of thing. So I just thought that was really special. That was also down at the Saturday market in Portland. Yeah. This gentleman here, he is a regular with me when we go out doing free hugs. And one of the things that happened at this particular thing, a young kid came up to hug him, a very small, I would guess probably 4 or 5 years old, with parents there, but started hugging him and would not let go. And the embrace was probably about 5 minutes. I mean, it stopped. People stopped around there and were just looking at this. The kid melted into this gentleman's arms, and it was just a joy to see that moment. Makes me goosebumps a little just even thinking about it. I mean, it was very powerful. So those are, I think we may have just a couple more just for fun. That's actually, the face you can see is actually of someone being hugged. So the free hugger is the one with the green backpack there. But again, and the sign you'll see, that's the Spanish version of the sign. We have abrazos gratis to make sure that people who speak Spanish can understand that we're doing free hugs as well. So there's that one. This again, the lady doing this was her first time doing free hugging. And again, she's actually recently moved to Philadelphia and is hoping to start up a Philadelphia contingent. So that's kind of exciting. And then this is one, I just have a really funny story about this one. This young lad came up and we hugged, and he wanted a sign. So I gave him that sign, which, you know, again says abrazos gratis on it. Says free hugs on the other side. I thought he just wanted the sign. Well, what ended up, and I thought he was just going to take it home. Well, and then we hugged, and I said goodbye, and I turned around and was hugging. I turned around, and he was walking through Saturday Market with a line of people. He was hugging just whole bunches of people, because who wouldn't want to hug that little guy? And it was just beautiful. But he went on. He started his own business, I think, doing the free hugging on his own.
You see what you've done.
That was just really special. And then this was just the one. This is in Pioneer Square in Portland. In front of a TriMet bus going on, and this guy just that's a fair weather, foul weather sign I have there. That one can stand up in the rain pretty good. So that was just a hug. He just really wanted to be there in that hug for a bit. So
that was the last one.
That was those are just some of the signs. I don't know if I can show you this. So my sweetie, my wife actually, I'll do it that way. My wife actually put a book together of a lot of the photos that she takes from all these free hug events, and so it's just it was a very special gift when she gave me that as a memory of all the different times that I've gone out hugging, and she stands over in corners, various places, and takes pictures of it. So a very special gift she gave me that touches my heart whenever I look at it.
You betcha.
So September 21st, free hugging all around the world. Go online and Google Global Free Hugs for Peace, and you can find a location near you or start one. It's a great way to do it, man. And I think, by the way, free hugging, my mission, touch hearts, absolutely. Challenge minds, absolutely. There's people who walk by who look at you who maybe can't quite come and hug a stranger, but you can tell something's going on, and I really love that. And it absolutely incites laughter. There's just all sorts of fun things that go on in part of the whole process. So I'm
Yeah.
living my mission when I'm doing that, and it makes me giddy.
Yeah.
So
There's a second result of what you've done to me here, and I want to tell you about it. This second result. There's a friend of mine who's a humanist minister. He's a fellow humanist, and he's a clinical psychologist also. And I've known him for years, and I think I know 2, maybe 3 people who are absolutely unique in how they hug, what they cause to happen when they hug you. And it happened to all three be men through the years, and I've got a lot of years going by. And Hank's his name, Dr. Rob, Hank Rob. And I don't ask for a hug from him too often because I don't want to become too used to it. But when I do, something magical happens. And I wrote a poem to Hank about his hugging. About 3 weeks ago, it had been maybe a couple of months, I says, Hank, how about a hug? And he puts his arms around, and here's the poem. Hank's Hug by Don Baham on August 5th, 2013. About a week ago, Hank hugged me, and it happened again. And it happens again whenever I decide to even recall that particular warm summer Sunday morning, when my total me slipped into an awareness of my ultimate aliveness and validity because Hank hugged me. What happens is like my whole being becomes inundated by endorphins, and simile and metaphor are woefully inadequate to put the feeling into words. When Hank hugged me on a particular warm summer Sunday morning. Thank you, Hank. You're magical. Wow. So if you ever meet Hank Rob anywhere, say, Hank, hug me. And you'll experience this magic I'm talking about. See what you've done to me.
Good. I'm glad. Changing the world one hug at a time.
You betcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So, shall we continue on with another part of what we're going to talk about?
Sure. There were a couple other things along with my sweetie, my wife, Tonya, we teach a class called Creating the Life You Want. Mm-hmm. We do a workshop. We take people to the beach for the weekend. So the short story, again, you can email me if you want more information about it, but it's really about trying to help people think about what's really important to them in their lives and what are they doing to live that way in a more intentional way than just going through life and whatever happens, happens. And so we've been doing the workshop for a number of years now. We do it a couple times a year, and I love it. There's a selfish reason I love it is because each time I go back and do the workshop, it helps me realign myself too.
Of course.
For me, I get the feeling like it's a true north for me. When I really get clear about the things that are important to me and how I want to be, it's a true north on the compass. And every moment in life, I get to see how I'm doing on that compass. And so creating the life you want to me is not an end state where all of a sudden the skies part and the angels sing and the rainbow, It's really about each moment. It's really about each interaction you have. How you're living each day and the moments you have during the day. And so we talk to people about that and try and help them. Actually, a number of the people you saw in those photos are Creating the Life You Want alumni who come out because I think they really believe that that's part of who they want to be as well, is doing the free hugging. So anyway, if people are interested, you can get in touch with me about that. Those are fun and absolutely life-changing events. And then the last one is again, part of Creating the Life I Want is me talking about what's going on in the environment and what's going on in our relations with people. I do believe that we're destroying the earth at a very significant rate. And so I really am trying to, for my own self, be more active in that whole arena and encouraging other people to as well.
So 350.org, contamination.
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff even in Portland. If you just look at Portland, Oregon alone, and this area, we have all sorts of big issues going on, from coal trains, coming down the beautiful Columbia River Gorge, and whether we think that should happen, and also other fossil fuel trains and barges coming down the Columbia. I mean, those are just isolated examples, if you will, but it's opportunities for people to decide how they feel about that. And you know, it's complicated, right? I mean, nothing is simple. And I had a woman, my state representative actually, talking to me about, hey, how do we, in Oregon, what gives us the right to say, no, you can't bring that through here? And a result of that is that we're costing people their livelihoods in other states because now they're not able to work in the coal mines because it's not being, you know. And I can appreciate that, but that to me is very small thinking. We're just continuing the growth of fossil fuel utilization if we're still having people work in mines and still putting it on trains and still having issues with it in it being burned. You know, even if it's burned in a foreign country, it's still going out into the atmosphere, right? It's not like it's, oh, well, it's over there, we don't have to worry about it.
There's a big wall that went across that.
So I know it's complicated, but I just think I want to encourage people to get active, to figure out how you really feel about these kinds of issues and do something.
I was reluctant for us to start talking about this because
it could be a show in itself.
Yeah, and what crosses my mind is there's so much, as far as I'm concerned, going on that's injurious to the environment, and I haven't thought through enough to offer some positive ideas about what to do to change things and have them go back the other way. And I don't want the show to end up on a downer sort of a point.
Right.
But maybe we can talk a little more on what people need to do to have. I think we all agree pretty much that the environment is deteriorating.
Yeah.
There's so much, even with we're finding that nuclear contamination is going into the Pacific Ocean now in an incredible way from the Fukushima disaster. And the other night I was watching, I guess it was a replay of what's going on, the Russian nuclear situation, and how life is returning slowly to that area of the world. And just looking at nuclear proliferation and contamination, and I don't see that diminishing, but what can we do to about nuclear contamination and it's continuing on?
So, but yeah, I certainly, that's why I don't want to leave this show on a downer either. But I mean, one of the things is I have not given up hope. Hope is good, but hope needs to be committed in action, right? People are powerful. You know, yes, governments are powerful and corporations are powerful, but people are powerful. We just need enough of them, right? There's a, you know, an old movie, Dead Poet Society, where at the Robin Williams movie, where at the end, you know, the students are standing up, right? Well, if just one student stands up, you know, nothing happens. But if all the students stand up, they're pretty powerful. And so we have choices. Every day we have choice points so many times. And one of the and we have a lot of choices about how we choose to deal with the situations that are going on locally, statewide, nationally, internationally, and speaking our minds and taking action. You know, there was recently with 350.org, there was a canoe and kayak adventure on the Columbia to protest coal trains coming down. And there were several hundred people, and that was really great. I would have liked to have seen several thousand people on the river. So it's an opportunity for us to really start recognizing there's a powerful documentary out now called Gasland 2. There was a Gasland about fracking and what's going on with that. And wow, it was just devastatingly sad to me about people who are turning on their faucets at home and they can light them on fire.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a huge issue. And so what are we doing about that? And are we writing our congressman? I mean, I recently had a meeting with my state representative. I've never had one before. But I decided it was time that I spoke to the people who are our representatives. We didn't agree on everything. We agreed on some things. We had some commonalities. But it was really a wonderful opportunity for the two of us. I absolutely appreciate her giving me the time, if you will, to sit, just one person, and maybe I made a little impact. And by the way, at the end, we hugged.
Really?
Absolutely. I talked to her about free hugging, and we hugged at the end of our meeting. So I think there's hope, but hope needs to be committed in action. I can't sit at home when I hear that there's a protest going on and send somebody who's going to the protest a note to say, well, I'll be there in spirit. And it doesn't work a whole lot. We need to get our tails out into the streets about things that are important to us.
Can you list the 3 or 4 major things in the environment that need addressing now? And would you put a priority of them on them? Which would be first to address? Would it be air pollution because of smog or smoke and that kind of stuff you inhale? Would it be radiation from nuclear stuff going on? Temperature, climate change?
Sure.
He's done it again.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You know, I think the nuclear ones have been devastating, but I think the numbers of them and the impact is still lessened to what some of the other things that are going on.
Yes.
You know, I mean, certainly, I guess we're not supposed to use the term global warming. It's supposed to be climate change now, right? Global warming is showing all sorts of impacts in a pretty deadly way and devastating way all around the world. And are we paying attention, and are we working on that one, which includes the burning of fossil fuels and carbon, you know, into the atmosphere, et cetera. So I don't, you know, one of the things is I don't know that you can look at them separately, right? You got to start saying, okay, let's look at this holistically, that says there's a lot of human behavior here that's not appropriate, and let's start working on them. But they are all, you know, connected.
Yeah.
So, and we all, you know, I mean, I drove here to come to this, right?
Yes.
I'm trying to take the bus more. I'm trying to ride my bicycle more. I shifted to a higher mileage vehicle than I had previously. So I'm doing things. Could I do more? Absolutely. I will continue to try and do more. And that's one of the things that each one of us gets to do, is to try and figure out, what can I do that I feel good about to try and help make a difference?
So we need to have individuals, particularly individual Americans, look at what they need to do in their lifestyle in terms of whether what they're doing satisfies a need or a want. And that's a big difference. We've become
Absolutely.
accustomed to satisfying wants rather than needs.
I would even add another one in there. I think a lot of what we do is we satisfy what I would call unhealthy wants.
Yeah.
Not even just regular wants. I mean, unhealthy wants that we're going to do that aren't working for us either. So.
And where do we get our wants versus our needs? And what I'm leading up to is the kind of system that we have that runs our country and runs our society and our culture is one that caters to satisfying wants rather than needs, such that we are ruining Gaia, the environment, across the board. And if somehow or other we can have better information about the reality of what's going on, it's going to affect succeeding generations. Perhaps we can convince people to look at life differently and give up these personal satisfaction wants.
One of the things I'm really trying to work on more, and I know we're getting short of time, but there's a Native American concept called seventh generation.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things it speaks to is the idea that every action we take, we should be thinking about its impact for 7 generations into the future.
About 20 seconds or 30 seconds more for you. Got anything more to say about that?
And so it's just, you know, if we stop to look at that, we probably reduce our want list, and we really start thinking about about 7 generations from now.
Thank you again for coming on the show. I've enjoyed you immensely, more than the last time. Thank you for coming. You have a final word to say, something to the viewers about whatever we talked about, or anything else, a final message to them to inspire them?
Join me for free hugging September 21st somewhere around the world. It's really cool. It'll flip your pancakes.
I knew it was coming. Goes close. Time for us to stop now. Let's see if we have some public service announcements for you to look at, and keep your pens and pencils handy, because we may show you something in the closing credits that you may want to jot down. To get my show local broadcast schedule, go to my website, www.donbaham.com, and click on present day activities. And to watch my shows on the web, go to my website again and click on favorite links. You can also go to Don Baham YouTube. Don Baham YouTube, there's hundreds of shows on there from the past, all kinds of guests. Next PSA, the ACLU. Oh, the American Civil Liberties Union. Without the ACLU, our civil liberties would be down the tube for sure. Worse than they are now under this Obama administration. Join the ACLU. And to get my shows broadcast by other stations, you can ask your local public access station where you're watching this show now to go to www.pegmedia.org and follow instructions. And to end corporate personhood, we got to go to movetoamend.org because we're in such a horrible situation now with monopoly capitalism because corporations are considered persons and money is considered speech. And we're losing this wonderful experiment called the United States of America. So, and my final message, rest in peace, poor people's president, Hugo Chavez. He's a human being, and I put on a level of Martin Luther King and Gandhi and Jesus and those guys. And thanks again for watching. And remember, KFC, not that KFC, Dr. Don's KFC. Kentucky Fried Chicken. No, kind, friendly, and charitable. Be kind, be friendly, and be charitable to you too, and you, and you, and you. Thanks again for watching.